Anyway, now that we're on camera. Okay, so what was the last? Oh, you were talking about unplugging. Okay, so what is your favorite kind of music, and kind of like how you asked me, like, what's your relationship with it, and how do you think it's evolved with like the, this new age of technology and this new age of like we're able to access everything because we can.
Yeah, I would definitely say the music that I most strongly identify with is hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
My relationship with it, I guess I can't really remember a time when I listened to music, even if it was like my sister's music or my cousin's music or whatever, and it was not hip hop or hip hop wasn't a main part of that. So that's always been a part of my sort of listening experience, if you will. I definitely think the kind of hip hop that I listen to has been entirely enabled by technology.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we were in middle school, like LimeWire was a thing. You know what I mean?
Remember like Napster?
Right, Napster. Like all of that stuff was just coming up. And so I have stuff still in my library, like weird random shit that I downloaded, but it was like I can find literally anything.
Yeah.
And so I was able to give myself a little bit of an education in like older hip hop than I think I would have really had access to without that technology.
That's very true.
Yeah, because my sister, I didn't have older people around me who were like into hip hop in the way that I was becoming into hip hop.
Yeah.
And so I sort of had to do a lot of that by myself until I got into high school and like I started talking to dudes who listened to the hip hop that I was interested in because it wasn't something me and my girlfriends talked about that much really until I got to college. But I also think that technology has made it really easy for me to be a fan of many other types of music as well that, again, I may not be introduced to in the same way if it wasn't for, like, you know, SoundCloud recommends or, you know, YouTube videos even of similar sort of related stuff that might be a little bit outside of my usual range, but is somehow relevant to other stuff that I already know I like.
Okay, so you bring up, like, streaming services, that once were, like, Napster and LimeWire. So what do you primarily use now, if you use any at all?
To obtain music? Or to listen?
Do you stream music, first of all?
Yes, that's like SoundCloud, right? Like streaming it without downloading it?
Yeah, SoundCloud counts.
Yeah, I use SoundCloud. I love NPR First Listen. Shit holds me down. What else do I listen to? I don't know. I listen to a lot of like mixes that people will publish on what like. Do you know about Bama Loves Soul?
No.
I don't know how I found this shit. Whatever. They have really cool mixes that they put out that are like jazzy inflected hip hop. So
cool.
I'll stream stuff like that or from like Bandcamp. Other than that, it's mostly, I don't know, where do I even buy shit now? It's so weird. I guess iTunes. If I feel really inspired or like I feel like there's a full album experience that I really need, then I'll buy that from iTunes or wherever. Really iTunes or Bandcamp. If it's a song-by-song basis, I'm definitely less likely to buy it, which is weird. Not that I say that out loud.
That makes sense.
I'll sometimes, I don't know, I'm going to get in trouble. Whatever. Sometimes I'll rip stuff from YouTube or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you feel about this? So you know that now, like, everyone's like, okay, like, we are trying so hard to take down, like, video to MP3 sites. There's now talk about you having to pay for videos on YouTube.
Wow. To watch them? Wow, that's going to be
So how do you feel about that? And, like, what do you think, like, ultimately? Because I think the goal is to always stop, like, the legal, like, downloading of music. Like, do you think it's possible? Do you think it's...
I really don't know if it's possible to turn it around at this point without some major, like, regulations that I don't think the like music community would really let those regulations happen, which is like fucked up on a lot of levels maybe. Because I also again as someone who like would love to be a paid performer at some point, I basically have to come to terms with the fact that like I'm not gonna be able to make a living off of that really at any point. I think basically until you get to like real fame, and even then you're not making a reasonable percentage of the money that you bring in, which is also a problem. But I think there's, like, humans are never going to stop creating music, and hopefully the industry will cycle back into figuring out how to pay them in a reasonable fashion, but I think we're pretty far away from that, and I don't know, like, if they start charging for videos on YouTube, for example, many somebodies across the world are going to figure out a way around that and figure out a way to. So I'm not super optimistic.
Yeah, for sure.
You know? But I mean, piracy is a real, is a very real issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you bring up the industry. So I think a lot of people, like, if we have a whole spectrum, it would be, like, musical culture, and then, like, the business behind musical culture. Mm-hmm. Like, where on the spectrum do those sit for you?
What do you mean? Where does what?
Like, do you feel like there's a really deep, like, personal connection between, like, a positive connection? Do you feel like it's negative? Like, the industry has really, like, tainted musical culture?
I see what you mean. I'm really just starting to learn about the industry. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely one of those things where it's like, as I get a little bit more information, I realize how much more there is out there that I could be figuring out. Mm-hmm. So I feel like my understanding of it is maybe a little bit skewed because I have way more experience sort of with the culture than the business. That said, I think that one can't really exist without the other.
Yeah.
Again, like I said before, I don't think we're gonna hit a point where people stop creating sounds and calling it music. Mm-hmm. And I think if they have any desire to share that, there has to be a machine sort of behind that. That's how capitalism works.
Right.
So I think sort of because of that, like, yes, it certainly has tainted the culture. I think particularly, really any musical culture, but especially with hip hop, mm-hmm. I think that sort of like exploitation, and that level of like artistic censorship that happens because, like you were saying before, like if women want to sell their music, they know they have to be half naked, right?
Yeah.
Or something I've been reading about a lot for my thesis is that, like, sure, there's like a misogyny, sexist issue in hip hop, but we also know that like sex sells and like raunchy black men sell, you know. Yeah, so like there's a level of like that's what people are gonna do if they need to get paid. Mm-hmm. So that's very unfortunate. But there's like for every, I don't know, fucking like 2 Chainz, there's like 8 million people making good music.
Right, exactly.
That like can't necessarily it's obviously not on the same platform, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and it's not like affecting the audiences that it does reach.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
Okay, so like kind of like I now want to know. So in your circle of friends, mm-hmm. do you associate with people, or like do you have friends that don't listen to music at all?
I don't really understand that. I have actually one of my Nick Leach, one of my closest friends from high school, recently told me, he's like, I don't really like fuck with music like that, or like I don't really follow music. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't like? Who doesn't listen to music? It just doesn't compute to me. I say that to say that like people that I've known for a while who maybe now don't listen to music are like okay, but
right.
You can, like,
so if you just meet them, then they're probably not going to be your friend, is what you're saying.
I mean, not that, but like the people that I really vibe with, the people that I feel like I can have real conversations with, those almost always are related to music in some way. So it's not that it's like a vetting system, you know what I mean? Like we can still hang out, I guess, but we can have so much more to talk about if you listen to music.
Right. So if you change yourself, we can talk about it. So kind of like last question, because I think that's important. So how do you feel like music culture fits into American culture overall? Like, what role do you think it plays?
Yeah, I think it, in a lot of ways, acts as like a translator, in some ways, in terms of like sort of between different cultures. Between different elements of American culture. Mm-hmm. I think that's one thing it does. I think it's also sort of a mediator. Like what I was saying, if I can connect with someone about a random song or whatever the case may be, like we have something to talk about and can sort of base a relationship around that. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of American culture sort of centers around a similar idea in relationship to music. I guess when I first think of like American culture and the biggest sort of indicators of that, I feel like TV and film come to mind a little bit before music, but I don't think music is far behind as sort of like a really sort of specific and what's the word? I don't know, sort of like a distinctly American cultural mode that like if we didn't have like what would American culture really look like? What would it be? Like I don't really know. Also, like music is so much a part of those TV things that come to mind first. So I guess it's all related. I don't know. But I do think it's its function as a translator between different cultures is really important, particularly, again, when I think about Moses hip-hop, the access that a whole bunch of other Americans have been given to Black America in many ways through hip-hop, I think is really significant.
Yay! Woohoo! Is this a new computer?
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Huey P. That's my name.
Yeah, congrats. Your major, like, what are you doing here? What was Syracuse like for you? You're a senior, so tell us a little bit about that.
Damn. Syracuse has changed what it is for me a couple times. I originally came here on a soccer scholarship, played soccer for a year, decided that's not what I wanted to do. I transferred to Fordham for like a week maybe, and I came right back. And I'm an economics major and a CRS major, which is really just my...
It's okay, I'll stitch it together.
Yeah, I just love being able to take large things and components and things that I have a general idea and sense of and being able to contextualize them for other people.
Sorry, one second. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, just contextualizing them for other people, and I think music and economics are the same in that sense.
Word. Okay, so... like you're talking about, you have this day job, and then you also touch on music, which I know is a really big part of your life, which is why I wanted to talk to you about this. Like, how has music really shaped your experience at Syracuse? And, like, I don't know, for me, I feel like music always helps me get, like, a better understanding about what's going on in my own life and how I'm going to make my way. So what is music's role in your life?
I think music's role in my life has been, for a lot of time prior to college, something that brought me closer to other people. It was something just like soccer that you could talk about with someone else and find a connection outside of your regular day-to-day person and have some currency across the world. I think, being that my family's from Jamaica, I listen to a lot of reggae music coming up, and that influences me. And just that idea of love and sharing and just the values that music have provided me and brought me some of the best moments of my life, I think I always gravitated towards that and wanted to create that experience for other people. For example, like I do a radio show in Syracuse with my man Drew Brown, and we're the only hip-hop station in Syracuse, so we like to represent that. I think also the fact that I'm from Atlanta, and Atlanta has just been kind of this mecca of hip-hop music, but just music in general. I've been exposed to a lot of different things from a standpoint of business and seeing how people have the ability to capitalize on that talent in a real sense, as well as just the flash and fame that comes along with it, and kind of understanding what is value and what is true value and what's not. So that's some stuff. And then I run the Student Hip Hop org on campus, so I'm able to kind of see and implement ideas that I have myself in the space of hip hop and be able to create programming for kids on campus that help to address day-to-day issues like the type of stuff that's going on with the Trayvon Martin, or just anything that's in the space that can be an outlet for somebody else to talk about or express their ideas or come together.
So let's talk about, I like how you mentioned, you're talking about growing up, your family being Jamaican, and you're talking about the values that taught you. So, people always talk about how, I'm going to go towards hip-hop because you mentioned that a lot, and especially your involvement on campus. What are the values that you get from hip-hop? And do you feel like they're positive? Do you feel like they're negative? Like, what's your real feeling on that? Everybody has a lot of different opinions.
Yeah, like for me, I'd say the thing that hip hop has always taught me is that there's value in everything, and there are components to everything that can be used to create something greater than you. So, it kind of gave me the perspective that everything has a value, and has a value in a way that will also touch other people. So never writing something off, never writing off a certain genre, never writing off just the unthinkable components, because those are the things that make different sounds or groundbreaking music, or anything that's going to push a culture. So for me, it's just remembering that taking all the resources that are in my space and creating something different is something that can be done in